is 180 milliseconds too late. The SSA Rocket League podcast, episode number 7. Today, I have a conversation with Gregan about his journey in Rocket League and why he is throwing his weight behind SSA Rocket League. All right, so Gregan, former professional coach and current RLCS main desk broadcast, which is what I think most people know you as. So first of all, hello, and thank you for taking time to come and chat.
No, it's all right. I mean, you reached out. I've heard you on various little broadcasts here and there. And obviously the South African scene have spoken very highly of you. And I was like, look, I want to have a little chat with you. And this was a perfect opportunity to do so, as I love a podcast.
Excellent. Well, that's great to hear. So I guess because most people will either know you from the RLCS broadcast desk or know you as the coach, but there's always a fuller story than just those things. So why don't we start with you giving us the 90-second to 3-minute run through of your Rocket League life? How have you landed up being where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a journey. I mean, I started off being part of the Nox crew and Minecraft build team, and I used to go to Insomnia Gaming Festival with them and run a booth there. And basically, Rocket League came out, and I was the guy in the community. I was playing it like crazy. I was better than everyone. In fact, I played with Craftman back in the day. He came to Rocket League with me from the Minecraft days. And one event at Insomnia, my two friends were commentating the final. They barely played any Rocket League, and they were like, hey, do you want to come on and be a guest commentator? So there I was, before Rocket League was barely even an esport, casting the highest prize pool event, the first real stage Rocket League event, which was like a £3,000 prize pool. And off the back of that, I just sent emails off and show reels using that as my starting. And I sent an email off to JamesBot. And JamesBot went, come on in, let's have a chat. And so I chatted with him and CloudFuel and started getting involved in community casting quite early on. And through that, met a lot of the scene, met Kronovi quite early on. It was pretty special. You know, Kronovi was one of my inspirations at the time, and he was like the first pro I ever met. And so, yeah, that was my entry in. And then because I was a European, so I could do the European community tournaments, and I had a PC and internet good enough to host and stream them, I pretty much just got given all of the shows I wanted. So it was up to me how hard I worked. And I actually had to retake my second year of uni because I just every evening was hosting Rocket League events and then streaming myself afterwards, hosting Rocket League events, streaming afterwards. That was my start. Okay. I started coaching around season 1, season 2 of RLCS. I did a little bit of coaching teams at Insomnia. And helping them out here and there. I did the first real rotation positioning tutorial on YouTube with Tabletop Tactics, and then I started coaching Supersonic Avengers, so Doomsy, Snasky, ELMP in season 2. They came 6th, I believe, but that was sort of where I started the coaching journey, and then from there just did a little bit of coaching whilst commentating, and then I committed full-time to commentary for season 5. With Vitality, where it was more of a management role with coaching a bit on the side, and then it gradually converted to a coach manager role, and so that's sort of how that journey started. But yeah, I really started as a commentator. I was like the next in line after Shogun. Me or Johnny Boy would have been the next in line after Shogun to the main broadcast, and then from that got Stumpy and Cole involved and all that kind of thing. Yeah, I've been around the block.
Wow, that's amazing. So you've been pretty committed to the scene almost from day one.
Yeah, I mean, I picked up the game just as it came out. So I wasn't playing alpha or beta, but I saw some of my favorite Minecraft YouTubers playing it and was like, this game looks amazing. Started playing it, got very addicted to it very quickly. And actually, like a lot of people, I had an injury. That's what got me into it so much. I think I broke my finger pretty badly. Okay. So I remember playing Rocket League with my finger in a cast, and then I got used to playing it with my finger sort of still being too sore to do sport and cricket, which is the main sport I was playing at the time.
Yeah.
And so it was thanks to that injury that I wasn't out and active enough. That meant I just stayed inside and played Rocket League all day. So that probably was where it all started. And then, yeah, I mean, everything I do, I do it to a level that is outrageously overcommitted.
Okay.
And so thankfully that landed me a career in Rocket League, because it didn't land me a career in all my other journeys that I took on,
Well, life is often like that. It never kind of ends where we thought it was going, and it can, and if we're open to it, it can be quite fabulous. So that's almost 7 years of Rocket League of your life then. I mean, we're coming up to the
Yeah.
sort of 7th anniversary later this year. And then your last big coaching gig was Guild. So how did that come about, and how long were you with them?
Yeah, so after Vitality, 2 years with Vitality, I didn't really want to jump straight into another team because I'm very committed to the teams I'm on, to the point where I felt like I'd have been cheating on Vitality if I went and joined another team.
Okay.
And so, I was still supporting Vitality through season 9. And I was just doing freelance coaching, coaching people online through Gamers Ready, which, was an amazing opportunity to develop my coaching skills. Because I felt like the way I described it was like I was playing poker to a really high level, but with the same hand every single time. So
Okay.
like I wanted to go out there and experience every hand, because if you just coach the same 3 people, you learn how to coach them very well. But I hadn't learned generalized coaching in Rocket League that well. So that's why I went and did a lot of freelance for a while, just to try and develop my skills as a coach. And I got a chance to do some freelance for E United, where I coached those guys out of the relegation zone, which was a fun experience. And while I was at E United, I got connected with one of the esports consultants who was working with very early Guild, like before they were even called Guild. And they were looking for someone in Rocket League who's based in the UK. And, me being freelance at the time, being a coach, which is what they were kind of looking for, I got connected there and started chatting quite early on and just got on really well with them. And it made a lot of sense. And so I helped develop the early phase of Guild, was essentially an internal esports consultant, as well as coach, as well as manager, as well as working with every department as you do in a startup company. And so that was quite a rewarding experience. And then just as time went on, became more and more coach only,
Okay.
as people took responsibilities on for different departments and everything. And so, yeah, that was sort of how Guild came about. And, what an amazing experience to be part of the development and the early stages of Guild. And then I guess the development of the players that I had there was an awesome opportunity to turn them from that, bubble team that's just had their breakthrough into RLCS into a regional winning champion team. And so, yeah, Guild was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had in esports.
And what preceded the decision to move out of that and get into what you're doing, like getting into the content creation and the casting? Because that's quite a big shift. I mean, it's still within the same game, but within that's a fairly large shift to make.
Yeah, I guess one of the big caveats with Guild was, and it's not on Guild, it's just due to the circumstances of a startup company and the world that we live in right now. But I really wanted to be an in-person coach. I wanted to be there with the players every day, working in a training facility. That was my goal.
Okay.
And I think that's still Guild's goal. And I think it just took too long for that to happen due to the world we live in and, how long it takes to get an HQ set up. And that's really where I feel my next steps were in coaching, because my best experience as a coach was always at events. I always felt like I could actually help the players way more there, because that was the most important factor within esports. And we're seeing it now with boot camps being a massive factor for a lot of these teams. So when that wasn't happening, I think I was getting a little bit burnt out from coaching. And I think Guild recognized that. And I think the players recognized that. And I recognized it too, because we had a good discussion where we parted ways mutually. And I think it was the right thing for both sides, because I think Guild are going to do incredibly well now with a fresh reset. I see them developing a lot better now with Marky on board and CRR brought in. And then equally, I landed an amazing opportunity to be part of the RLCS team, which I don't know if I expected it to be as easy as it was, but Corey and I from Sarnix. So Corey from Sarnix is the guy who organizes and deals with the talent for RLCS. And we got very close back in the day. And actually, we had a chat just before I joined Vitality about how he wanted to get me on board for RLCS. And it just never happened because, I committed to Vitality. That was just when I did my last ever event, which was DreamHack Leipzig 2018. And, everyone was like, get Gregan on board. And I was like, committed to Vitality already, signed the contracts, all that kind of thing. So Corey has always been, I think, waiting for that chance to have that discussion again, because we've had it at various times as the events have gone on. And the moment I put that tweet out saying, maybe I should go back to being on camera again, he instantly reached out to me and was like, let's get you on RLCS. And I was very fortunate to fall forward, I guess, having thought I was going to be taking a extended few month break from anything and then finding out what I wanted to do. So It made my decision very easy, and very lucky to be paid well for the RLCS and have a lot of free time to do other stuff. So it makes a lot of sense then to do content creation. And again, got very lucky with that. Just after that full major, started streaming, and my numbers went up by like 10 times.
Yes.
So like, it's all these little things that you add together, and it sort of made the decision for me. And I'll be honest with you, before joining Guild, my goal was to get further and further from the public eye. I wanted to be a coach in the forefront, and then slowly move into the backroom staff and get further and further from people judging me in the public and everything like that. And I guess I sort of went, do you know what? It's one of those things I'm just going to have to accept as part of my life now. And with that, I get more responsibility and more opportunities to make a difference. But I've got to accept now I'm in the public eye.
So you failed spectacularly in moving into the back.
Yes. Went slap bang in the middle of the desk.
And here you are. So, okay, fabulous. And Gregan, if you don't mind, can I ask how old you are?
I'm 26.
26. Okay, cool. And the question I always ask is the Gregan, the in-game name or the name by which you are mostly known. I'll admit that I only found out your real name when I went to your Wikipedia page earlier today. So you become very attached to those in-game names, or it becomes a big part of the identity. Is there any significant backstory to the name Gregan?
I mean, it's quite an interesting one, I guess, compared to a lot of people. So George Gregan, the Australian scrum half who played against England in the 2003 World Cup final, I thought his name was really cool. So I named a wizard in a book I was writing at school, a fantasy book I was writing at school, after him. And so then I started RuneScape and was like, what should I name my character in RuneScape? And I really liked this wizard character I created. I love the name Gregan. It was Gregan back then. And I thought it was such a cool name. So I named my character in game Gregan25 because I was like, I want to be like that wizard. And it kind of just stuck from there. But the problem is it stuck as Gregan because so many people mispronounced it as Gregan that I just went, screw it, we'll just go with Gregan. And I feel really guilty correcting people now, especially, when I went out to America and I've worked on shows out there where people don't know who you are and they've never heard your name said. They just read it and they go, oh, Gregan, could you come do this? And people are like, he pronounced your name wrong. I'm like, actually, technically, they pronounced my name correctly. But
okay.
So yeah, that's where it came from.
Oh, very cool. All right, so now finally we get to why I was very keen to talk to you in particular is in December, at the end of December, you put out a tweet longer about your plans for 2022 and your content creation and blah, and buried in that was you wanted to help develop the game in various areas, including SSA. And obviously that's of big interest to me. And I guess the first question around that is what led to that? Why SSA in particular?
Yeah, I mean, it comes from my growing up, just being around a lot of South Africans. I played cricket, played rugby. South African culture was a massive part of sport when growing up. We've got a lot of South African players who come overseas to play in cricket over here. So I knew a lot of South Africans. I know a lot of amazing South Africans. And also when I was growing up, I played African drums. So I've got a lot of connection to the African culture, and I think it's an amazing place and I'd love to visit. It's probably one of the only places in the world that I'd love to visit to see the culture, like I'm not a big cultural person normally.
Okay.
I'm very much just like I've always been, I want to go on holiday somewhere where they speak English because I just want to be comfortable. I want to see the sights and just want to feel like it's comfortable. So I love going on holiday to America. New Zealand was amazing for that reason, that kind of thing. But for Africa, I want to see the culture. I want to see the world. I want to see what I can do to help it, and so on and so on. And so that's where it came from. And I also, seeing people who have to fight against the challenges of their own location, their own region, their own value as a region, I think is one of the big reasons why I wanted to do it, because there's not a lot of money in South Africa and there's not a lot of opportunity. And I think that's a lot of that is due to the opportunity that's provided by the community, by the scene, and just in esports in general. So I thought if there's anything I can do to help that community grow and develop, that will make me feel happier, because that's ultimately why I do coaching. That's why I did everything I've done is to try and help and grow people's lives and make it more fulfilling. So it just seemed like the perfect combination of people, culture, and an underrepresented group who needs support. And I also, I know Bish, who's involved with DNMK, and then I've got friends now through playing against them in ranked, playing with them in ranked. The Bravado boys, I'm now friends with thanks to coming across to Die For and ranked. A lot of them come into my stream now because of the connections, and so I feel way more connected with the scene. So it's only got better as time has gone on, and I just also really like the attitude. I've seen a lot of pros in Europe who don't realize how lucky they are. And I think it comes from that place of expectation. Expect money, expect opportunities, you expect more. Whereas I feel like the attitude and culture within the sub-Saharan African scene is we just want to play, we want to enjoy this. We want to grow and develop. We want to win, but not because we want money. We want to win because it's fun and it's competitive. And so that difference in attitude is one that I appreciate. And so yeah, there's just a few reasons. And at the end of the day, if I can get some of the South African players over to the UK in an off season at some point, maybe get a little sponsored boot camp, these kind of things, ideas that are going through my head, because that's how you develop when you're from one of those regions, is to do overseas boot camps. But those opportunities aren't easy to do, and so yeah.
No, well, firstly, awesome. And I guess from me and on behalf of the region in general, welcome aboard. We are thrilled to have you. And
thrilled to be here.
Yeah, and it's been such an amazing, geez, what are we now? Sort of 3, 4, 7, 8 months now since the announcement of the expansion of the regions. And it came at such a good time because Rocket League locally was at risk, just because there was nowhere really to go, and there was a lot of frustration, and some amazing players who love the game and who are really good at it, but they'd gone as far as they could possibly go. And so there was a lot of concern and doubt, and suddenly we're not a full member, but we've at least the expression I've used is we've got a seat at the table. It's kind of the kids' table, that small table at the end, but we're there and we'll grab that opportunity. And now it's like, how do we make the best of it? And I've seen a couple of your streams where you're very involved with the Bravado guys, and that's been awesome to see. And you being a part of that. So I guess the question out the box is, in your opinion, how far have we got to go to reach a globally competitive level, and what do we need to do to move in that direction?
Yeah, good question. I think right now I feel SSA is at a similar level, if not better than APAC. I don't know how much that will differ if you guys played against them, because you've got very different styles in the way you play, especially the top few teams of both regions. The top few teams in APAC, Tokyo Verde in particular, are very freestyly. They're very mechanical, and they could so easily be punished by a team, which was what we saw in the APAC qualifier, if they just played solid Rocket League. And I feel like, especially Bravado plays super solid Rocket League, and I think so do Pirates. These kind of styles I think can work well in developing from there up. Like, you have that style, work on your mechanics, get used to playing against better teams, you're going to develop a lot quicker. So I think you're in a really good spot in that sense. I think the only region that I feel like you could compete with right now is APAC.
Okay.
I feel like OCE, you'd start competing with some of the top 8 teams, but the top few, top 3 to 5 might be a bit too challenging for your top teams. And same thing for South America. But you can develop so quickly in Rocket League. We saw it with Complexity. As soon as they moved to North America, they developed so fast. And so I think the best way to develop them is to give them those opportunities to travel overseas. Right now, Renegades, one of the OCE teams, are boot camping in preparation for the major, and that is historically been how OCE teams have improved and developed and managed to take games off of North America and Europe. is after extended periods of boot camping overseas in either North America or Europe. And I think that's what needs to happen for SSA. So hopefully around the time of the wild card, that's an opportunity that's given to those top two teams that make it. And then in the off season, I really hope to see some kind of initiative or push, and whether it's something that comes from the orgs within the region, or whether it's something that comes from maybe a big org in Europe that's willing to support, or whether it comes from people like myself, whatever it is, to have a boot camp overseas for these teams, and really try and help them develop and grow. And you know, like, the guys have learned a lot from my streams, and I'm sure they'd learn a lot from some good coaches. So hopefully there's some good coaches out there that see this and go, hey, I want to help and coach this scene. But again, it has to come from a place of love rather than a place of money grabbing, right? Because anyone who's a good coach is going to be looking at SSA and going, well, that's not going to be my full-time job, you know? And that's the real challenge right now, is you've got to try and find the people who are doing it out of passion rather than people doing it for the money.
So, okay, because what I'm keen to do, and I spoke to a coach last week and got, you know, we've got this long period for us here of like 10 weeks. We don't have a major to go to. So all we've got to do is prepare for the next split. And well, it's 9 weeks now. We've had a week go by already. And so I spoke to the coach about what should players be doing and thinking about. And you know, North America and Europe have had 6 years to develop their game, and they had the advantage of having a massive player base. So you know, they could do a lot more. We've kind of had to learn it with a very small player base and mostly on 180 ping. So my thought is, okay, so how do we short circuit it as much as possible? How do we learn the lessons that have been learned in North America and Europe? And I don't know. I mean, all the points you make are great points. Are there? How do we get our hands on the lessons? Like, how do we learn these things? We got you've mentioned the coaches, and it would be fantastic if we can get some seriously good EU and North American coaches getting involved with our teams. And then I just want to get our players plugged in, and orgs, whoever I can, plugged in to the places that will teach us those lessons over and above things, very important things that you've mentioned, like the overseas boot camping.
Yeah, I think the challenge you've got is coaching is only as good as the player makes it. Because a coach can come in and can be like, you need to work on this, this, and this. And then the players have to go away and improve. And that comes with the lack of professional players within the region. You know, you've got, I mean, just use To Die For example. Speaking to him, you know, he's doing like 3 sports, studying at school and trying to be a pro on the side, and he's one of your most mechanical players, right? And so you've got people like that who just don't have the time outside of their normal lives to work on it. And so there is a little bit of that professionalization that happens, and, you know, commitment to the cause that needs to happen. And so I think it's going to take time. Obviously, time is the only factor that can really help develop any region. And then I think you've got so many good examples of top teams and top players out there that you can replicate. The challenge you've got is a lot of them are doing things to counter the people around them speed. And so, you know, you look at someone like, I guess, Jorias, right? Like, the things he has to do so fast because he has to beat people who are also fast. And so then that's where you're like, okay, we only need to go as fast as the people around us are. And that's what I think right now is limiting the development, is because you're not being pushed. So that's the reason why you have to go to another region. Like, honestly, if the guys just moved to Europe for a month and just played ranked, they'd probably come back way stronger, you know? So play, and that's the other thing, is playing on low ping, you play so differently to playing on high ping. I mean, even I find that just from EU to US East, and I'm only going up to like 70 to 100 ping with good routing, whereas you guys have to go from South Africa to Europe servers with bad routing. It's a whole different experience. So yeah, you have to just put time in on other servers. And you know, you've got the other thing of, if you come to Europe, you can scrim against European teams. You know, you can start experiencing what it's like to play against them. And that's where the wild card's going to be a massive experience. You know, when you go along to that, you're going to get a chance to practice against other teams. You know, they had 6 mans for all of the players who are at the wild card, well, at the major. So, you know, you've got players from the APAC teams who are doing 6 mans with, you know, the best players in the world. So those kinds of experiences are amazing as well. And you'll absorb and learn from the pro teams around you as to what they do and what they experience to improve. Outside of the game stuff, at this stage is not going to be a big enough factor. So
Okay.
like all of it is just going to be down to experience, playing against people who are better than you, and developing those skills in game. I think anything outside of that, yes, it can affect it. You know, like being a healthy individual, you know, getting in a good routine and all that kind of stuff. But it's just hours in the game, putting that practice in and having a balanced lifestyle around that.
And then I wonder your thoughts around, because obviously a player base is important, and I've certainly observed an improvement in the number of, uh, we're getting games at higher ranks. It used to be once you got to the top end of Diamond into Champ, you then had to go play EU servers because you just weren't getting games locally. Now you find on local servers you are not a lot of them, but you are at least getting games all the way to kind of GC, which is a good thing. And in how much of a factor is that in growing the bottom of the game? And it seems like an obvious answer, but I'd like to get your thoughts on it.
I mean, player base is massive. I mean, just looking at the top regions within Rocket League right now, people might look at Middle East doing well at the full major and think, oh, it's just because they got access to European servers. Well, it is the fact that they can play on European servers and practice against the European team. So they're technically kind of in the European region in that sense. But it's also because the Middle East has the third highest player base. You know, you've got North America, Europe, Middle East. It might be Europe, North America, Middle East. I'm not sure, but they're the third highest player base. And then the same problem you have with OCE, APAC, South America. South America have a similar problem to you guys, whereby once they start getting to a high enough rank, they have to start playing overseas and playing on the US West, US East servers. And so, yeah, it is a massive problem. I think the further you are from a playable server, like you guys are at that point where you can just about play on Europe, but really you're not. You're getting in bad habits from it. But it's the reason why OCE struggled over lockdown, because they didn't have that ability to play internationally. But as soon as they go back to events, just think of the Chiefs' journey. You know, every Worlds they finished a position higher until they finished fourth. You know, so like it is, and the fact that we had Drippe, he was able to travel to America to play on a team in America. The fact that we've had South America be able to move to North America off the back of that region doing well, like it does happen with regions that have a chance to develop. But just think how much time South America and OCE had to develop, and even then they weren't able to break through to be number one within North America and Europeans' top teams. But I think that's the point where you've got to start thinking, how can we start taking games off of people? How can we start taking series off people at that wild card? Because that's going to be the first chance for you guys to really show up. And then next season, hopefully there'll be a restructuring to who's invited to the majors, who's invited to wild card, how many are invited, and so on. So it gives you guys a chance to travel to events more often. And then outside of that, I think it's, you know, individual off-season events like, let's get 2 South African teams an invite to play in a tournament from Europe and have a 1-week boot camp, you know? And then we do a qualifier in sub-Saharan Africa for those top two teams to come along. And yes, people might go, oh yeah, but then you're just letting the top 2 teams get better and everyone else is not going to. But you're only as good as your best team in your region, you know? And if your best teams in your region are playing and scrimming within the sub-Saharan African region, that's going to develop the rest of the region. So you have to develop the top teams through those international events, and then build it up from there.
All right. Well, you've segued nicely then to one of the questions I want to ask. You did allude in one of your streams about how the structure might look going forward. And before I ask you that question, I mean, I think our big intention right now is to make the absolute most of the opportunity we got, so that Psionics and the globe, the community at large, can go, you know what, we need to present more opportunities for SSA. They've definitely got to be part of the scene going forward. So right now, up until the end of Worlds, is how do we make the best possible opportunity of it? But you did allude to a possible restructuring, and I don't know if you have inside knowledge and what you're allowed to say or not. But what are your thoughts about a possible restructure of SSA and how it fits in with the global scene after this season?
Yeah, I mean, I do of course have inside knowledge, but that's not what's fueling this discussion, because every season is a trial to make the next season better, essentially. You know, the RLCS X season was a trial season to develop a structure for this season and so on. So they're going to change things. They're going to change formats that didn't work as well. They're going to change how many people get invited to what event. I mean, we had no idea how APAC and Middle East were going to fit. We really didn't know how OC and SAM were going to fit after such a long period away from international events when coming along to those majors. And I think what happened was kind of expected.
Yes.
But the main issue is we didn't have any idea where Sub-Saharan Africa was going to fit within that. So I think that's why you guys have had that sort of trial season where you guys get to play within the structure of the online part, and then you get that wildcard spot. And I think 2 wildcard spots is a really good chance for you guys to make a splash. And it also makes the scene a little bit more interesting, right? Because you normally have a dominant team within the emerging regions. And so having 2 wildcard spots makes it interesting for that battle for second, you know?
Yes.
So it does add that interest there. So I think you guys are very fortunate in that sense. But then my worry in my head is, right, we need to restructure the major system. How do we get Sub-Saharan Africa across? The discussion then goes, they're not good enough. They're not good enough. Yeah, let's not invite them. But then in my head, I'm like, well, why are you inviting APAC? You know? So then it's like, well, let's just not invite APAC too, you know? And that's my thought is, how do you create another spot for MENA? Because right now MENA deserve 2 spots, right?
Yes.
So how do you then fit another MENA team in? And the only way you can do it without like ruining APAC or Sub-Saharan Africans' opportunity, and then also making sure you still have all of the European, North American, OC and SAM teams, is to increase the major capacity to 20 or 24. And then that brings in then what do you bring in? And you know, the discussions are there, but then it's also that then requires more money from Sarnix to pay for each major. That requires a different system at the majors to what we have in the regionals, because right now the regionals are 16 teams and then the major replicates that format, you know? So there's a lot of questions around that. And I think right now those questions are being discussed internally. And obviously we haven't had enough of these majors to really see what the impact of one APAC team is and so on. And even within APAC, right, is the discussion there to merge it into one region? Should we keep it as APAC South, APAC North, or do we allow, you know, the best players from, say, the gaming gladiators, the top team of APAC South, do we allow them to have one of those players play on Tokyo Verde, you know, or will they remain as separate teams? So there's so many things to discuss, and I think that's where this season you've got to think of it still as a trial for next season. So that's how I feel. I feel like everyone is looking at it. Everyone's judging it and going, this format's bad. Why is this team not at the major? We should have more teams at the major. It's so unfair on the 6th team for Europe and North America, who could beat, you know, the APAC team there, the OC teams, the SAM teams there, etc. You know?
Yeah, well, I think your point is very, very well made, because it is, we have to look at this, and in the conversations I have, is it's, you know, new opportunities come with their own problems. You know, of course, as they've opened it up, and now we've had opportunity that we've never had before. And yes, you can look at it and go and be bummed out that we don't have a spot at the major and we have to wild card. But holy moly, it's an entire universe away from where we were a year ago. So we have to let it evolve as it goes forward. And as it does, there are going to be problems, and there's going to be a team left out that maybe shouldn't have, or, you know, that's not going to work. And the next season, you know, in an effort to try and improve, it might do something worse. So all of these things happen, and we have to go through the pain of that evolution in order for it to be incrementally better as it evolves. So I do get it. Well, then let me ask you this now, as we sort of come to a close here now. If you are a South African Rocket League player that's not a member of the top 4 teams, well, let's say the top 8 teams, but you're keen, you're sort of around Grand Champ 1 and grinding and going, what should those players be doing now? Like your top 3 list.
Yeah, I think the first thing you want to focus on is always going to be mechanics, because the challenge of being part of a region that's too far away from Europe or North America is the only way you can separate yourself from the rest of the scene is through grinding mechanics, and it also allows you to do it in a way that doesn't require you to play ranked or scrims and so on. So if you put in 2 to 5 hours a day of mechanics training, I mean, recently I went up about 300 MMR in ranked just because I started spending the evening doing free play and custom training packs and stuff like that. It works for me as a 26-year-old unmechanical player. It'll work for you as a young, aspiring pro player, you know? So mechanics first, get them down to the point where you look at pro players and you go, I can do everything they can do. And then from there, you need to watch replays. So first thing's mechanics. Second thing, watch replays of the top players within your region, and also, you know, take inspiration from European, North American players. Watch some of their replays and really understand what they're doing, their decision making. And if you're unsure more than that, look even at what I do with analysis of replays. There's loads of other streamers and content creators who analyze replays. You know, apparently Jack making content analyzing replays for various ranks. So just listen to the thought process from experts within the game and how they analyze the game and what the decision-making processes are there. And you'll probably take away some gems that you hadn't even thought about. And then the last thing is just play in tournaments, find some friends, find some people in ranked, you know, reach out to people and say like, hey, do you want to play some ranked together? And just play with people. Networking is one of the key parts of being a pro player in sport, esports, whatever it is. I got a bit of advice when I first got into this world from a friend who came from CSGO, and he said, make friends with people, but be very happy to move on from them. You know, if you're better than your teammates, you need to accept that you might have to just ditch them to move on to the next people. Don't be too friendly, but, you know, make sure you're friendly enough that people want to play with you and that, you know, that they're excited to join a call with you and everything, because that's a massive part of finding yourself on a top team.
Wow, brilliant, and solid advice there. And then what would you advise the Pirates, Bravado, ATK, Royalty, DNMK, the sort of the top 4 teams should? What else can they be doing?
I think just keep working at your mechanics to make sure they're as clean as possible. Keep putting in the work, even during the times where it feels like you've not got any opportunities, like between Regional 3 and Regional 1 of the next split. And find inspiration through European pros. You know, watch how they play, understand how they play, and try and focus on improving that gameplay in yourself. And I assume, I don't actually know this, but I assume six mans is the main way for those top players to keep grinding. So, you know, keep putting yourself in the six man's queue and don't be picky about it, because the moment you start getting an ego and start thinking, oh, I can't do six mans because I'm too good for these guys, or that person's queuing or whatever, that's the moment you start not putting work in because you feel like you've made it. But if you want to really make it against the rest of the regions, you've got to go above and beyond what you think is acceptable within your region so that you stand out even more within the SSA region. And then when you go to other events, you'll start to match that of the international challenges.
Fantastic. All very, very good words. So, Gregan, thank you very much for taking time and imparting some really good info there, and important to get an international perspective. You know, our eyes have been opened. I guess we now got to live up to the fact that we're part of the global community and we've got to do our part, and having people like yourself come in and sort of sharing the wealth of knowledge is really, really important, and we're very fortunate to have you as a champion, and I hope you will continue to champion the cause of SSA Rocket League in the future. And I am planning to make it over to Worlds, so with any luck, we'll get to have a conversation, continue this conversation there. But really, thank you for what you're doing, and thanks for coming to take time.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of going over to Worlds, if you want some inspiration as a pro player or a part of Rocket League, go to an event, make a trip out of it. Maybe Spring Major, maybe Wildcard, maybe Worlds, whatever it is you can get to. It will make you come back and want to play way better, way more than you ever have before. But yeah, it's been great chatting to you. Honestly, this is the start of a journey. You guys have got to remember it takes time. This is something I'm trying to get over myself with change of career now, with content creation, with, you know, like fitness journey. I've just got to accept it. I can't get results today, can't get results tomorrow. I'm getting results in a year's time, but each day you got to keep going one step forward. And we'll get there. But I'm here for you guys, and we're going to make it make Sub-Saharan Africa one of the greatest regions in Rocket League.
And with that, I think we should bring it to a close. That is it.